Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's show. Before we get started, we'd like to acknowledge the recent events unfolding due to the death of George Floyd. Our hearts and thoughts go out to the community of Minneapolis and wish justice for the family and friends of George Floyd. Thank you for joining us on The Shift, a weekly live stream series from the Story of Stuff project. I'm Jericho Appo, the project's digital strategist, and today I'm joined by former Amazon employee and labor rights activist, Chris Smalls. Today, we'll discuss Chris's experience of working for Amazon, and we'll explore how Amazon threatens and silences their workers who speak out against their business practices. But first, a word about the shift. The coronavirus pandemic is forcing all of us to answer some of the toughest questions about how our society and system works, from how well we share resources to how resilient our communities are. But could this crisis actually be an opportunity to invest in an economy that works for people and the planet? What if we could come out on the other side more resilient than before? We started the shift to talk with the thinkers and doers shaping how we're seeing and reacting to the pandemic and what comes after. So let's get to it. As of today, May 29, 2020, 8 Amazon warehouse workers have died from the coronavirus. According to The Verge, Janet Jump, an Amazon employee from Indiana who has been collecting alerts sent to workers around the country, says that at least 800 Amazon warehouse workers have been diagnosed with the virus. Amazon's failure to protect their frontline workers against the pandemic is causing tension within the company. And the people seeking justice are the workers who labor long hours to get Amazon's products shipped to their customers. Today, we have the opportunity to hear from Chris Smalls, a former Amazon warehouse worker who organized a walkout and was later fired. And this is an actual quote, for violating social distancing guidelines and putting the safety of others at risk. Chris, thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me today. Glad to be here with you guys.
Chris, let's start at the beginning when you joined Amazon, roughly 5 years ago. Can you take us through what made you want to work for Amazon?
It's a funny story every time I talk about it because I used to work for a union grocery distribution warehouse prior to Amazon. I was working the graveyard shift, and I was there for about 3 years. And I wasn't really satisfied with the job, but I knew at the time I was married, fairly new kids, newborn babies, twins at the time. So I had to do what I had to do, right? And my mom, my mom is really the reason why I work for Amazon, because she called me one day. She was like, "Hey, Amazon's opening up a new building in New Jersey. Talk about my first building, Carteret, New Jersey, EWR9." And me, I was like, well, I already have a job, but if you want to fill out the application for me, go ahead. And she did. She did that, and they hired me. And I left my job that I was at because I wasn't happy at the time. And I actually took a pay cut to work for Amazon. I was only making $12.75 when I first started with the company.
Could you tell us exactly what your role was with Amazon? What were you doing? What were you responsible for?
When I was first hired, I was a picker. Was basically is picking customers' orders from a robot before it's being transferred to the pack department to be shipped out the building.
So a robot was telling you what to do, essentially. One of Amazon's automated robots.
Well, so the robot was actually controlling. It actually stores the items that the customers order. They actually store on the robot. The robot brings it to my workstation, and I pick the order off the robot, which that's why I called a picker.
So there are numerous articles online that show how grueling the working conditions are for those that work specifically at the warehouses. Can you describe to us what a typical shift looks like for you? If you're an Amazon warehouse worker, is it truly as difficult as people report?
Well, yeah, when I got promoted into a supervisor position, I always tell people the truth about working for Amazon. You have to prepare yourself mentally and physically. You work long hours. You're on your feet all day, 10 plus hours a day. And if you have a gym membership, you might want to cancel it. That's always used to be my favorite line, and people used to get a kick out of that. Even though I actually went to the gym after work for some reason, I was just trained like that. But it's not for everybody, and the problem is with Amazon, they hire people as young as 18 all the way up till you're 80 years old. They'll give you a position there, and a lot of times that resulted into a lot of injuries because you're trying to train, somebody that's a senior citizen, 55 and up, to work as hard as a 20-year-old. And that right there was a huge discrepancy that I noticed as a supervisor there. And I always used to tell people to prepare yourself mentally and physically by going home, eat your dinner, and just go to bed, because your body will take a toll on your body after a while. And that's what I think when people used to complain about the gruesome atmosphere is because you're on your legs all day. You're putting a toll on your body, and that resulted into a lot of injuries.
So you work specifically in the Staten Island warehouse known as JFK 8. We read an article from Gizmodo, and it reveals that this warehouse specifically has a staggering injury rate. We There was data in that article from OSHA's incident rate calculator saying JFK 8 scored a 15.9. For contrast, Steel Foundries, one of the most dangerous places to work at, has a 10.2. Sawmills has a 6.1. Your warehouse had almost double, more than double of what a sawmill is like. Why is
Right.
there such a high accident rate at this facility? And is it like that at other facilities as well?
Well, no, it's not, because this warehouse that I work at is one of the largest buildings. It's 900,000 square feet. It's it can hold 14 NFL football fields, and you're talking about 5,000 people coming in and out that building weekly. So of course the injury rate will be higher than the other buildings. They're not as big, especially in the tri-state area. And like I just stated before, Amazon hires a lot of senior citizens, and
Yeah.
though when you're trying to train senior citizens to work in a production warehouse, you got to understand Amazon is production. A lot of people get they get taken away and blown away by the technology and the way these warehouses look. It's like you're walking into a tech world. You think about the robots, the equipment we use, the type of technology that Amazon has, and you kind of forget that you're actually in a production warehouse. If you take all of that away, you're in the actual warehouse, and some people forget about that. And I say from my experience, when I got hired, I was fairly young. I still consider myself young, but I was younger, and I used to work hard every day because I thought working hard will get me promoted, which it did. But it won't play out that way for everybody. And as a young person or any person that comes on to the company, they work hard. They work so hard that sometimes they get hurt, or they work so hard where they hit that wall when they burn out, and they get hurt. And as for an elderly person, you're trying to do the same physical job for 10 hours a day. That takes a toll on your body, and over time, your body will break down.
There's the perception that Amazon as a business is essential. So people use Amazon as an essential service to deliver essential goods to them. But you and your coworkers know exactly what people are buying because you place the items in the boxes to ship out all day. Can you share what you saw and what your colleagues are seeing now in terms of what people are actually buying? Are most of these things actually essential?
No, they're not. Obviously, Jeff Bezos don't profit $30 billion by selling toilet tissue. People gotta understand that. This what we're especially at fulfillment centers. Yeah, there are essential items being sold, but that doesn't mean people are buying them. People can still go to their local grocery stores and get their essential items and order things. What I used to see when I was still employed: uh, video games, cosmetics, clothing, sex toys, Amazon Echoes, Dots, Fire Sticks. These were the type of things people were ordering, and those are not worth our human life, because we were risking our lives to pick and pack and ship out non-essential items, and the government deemed us as essential workers. We didn't deem ourselves that. The company did that, and the government did that. We never had an option. We didn't have any choice and no say so.
So, Chris, you organized a walkout to demand a shutdown at the Staten Island warehouse. Can you take us through what you were seeing that led you to make this decision?
Absolutely. So, beginning of March, a lot of my colleagues and coworkers were sick around me. I saw a lot of them with flu-like symptoms. Some of them were fatigued. Some of them were dizzy. Some of them were even vomiting at their workstations. A lot of them couldn't finish their 10-hour shift. I was sending them home a lot. I was sending them to the AmCare office on site a lot. That was very alarming, and I raised my concerns through the proper channels, going through HR. And at that time, we didn't have any confirmed cases in the building, so they kind of swept it under the rug. And it wasn't enough for me. I took some time off using the unpaid option that they only offered at the time. And I was fighting behind the scenes. I was sending out emails to the health department, to the CDC department, to the government's office, trying to get the building closed and quarantined, because I seen firsthand people around me become sick that upper management didn't see. After that didn't work because New York became the epicenter, I decided to take further action. But when I returned back to work on March 24th, my colleague, who's in the same position as me, we work hand in hand, she was sick. And she tested positive for the virus days later. But on that day, I sent her home because I seen that she was sick. After coming into work for multiple days in a row for 10-hour shifts, she was exposing the virus to hundreds of people in my department. And what I did that entire week, the week of March 24th, I sat in the cafeteria in the main break room for 8 hours a day, telling the employees that they possibly been exposed after management told me not to tell the employees. So at the end of the week, I realized that nothing was getting done. None of the concerns that we were raising to upper management, as far as the general manager, the head of HR, wasn't getting anywhere. They were just giving me the runaround. They decided to quarantine just me. Nobody else, none of my employees, not even a colleague that I ride to work with every single day. It was just me. So I knew right there that they was putting a target on my back to silence what I was doing, stop everything that I was doing. And I decided to take further action and mobilize that walkout on March 30th.
So you saw what was happening. You feared for the safety of yourself and others. You took action. In retaliation, in a way, Amazon terminated your position. What typically happens to people who stand up and question Amazon's authority? There's been numerous articles around warehouse workers trying to unionize, speaking out. There are videos of people who are afraid to reveal their identity, their name, their voice, just because they know that speaking out will come back to bite them. But what does Amazon typically do? Whenever people stands up against them?
Well, that's funny because they claim they don't do anything. If you ask them, do they retaliate against people, they're going to answer no, they don't. But it's clear as day that they obviously do. Terminating me was the wrong thing for them to do. But it was the right thing if you want to intimidate your workforce. They intimidated the workforce by firing me because I was speaking out about health and safety, but they're claiming that I violated health and safety. Doesn't make sense, right? But that's what they do. They retaliate against people who speak out against health and safety, even though they claim they won't. They do. They absolutely do. And so the result of that is now your workforce is afraid to speak up. And anybody that's trying to speak up will have some type of repercussion because of that. And it's not right. It's not fair. And, this is the reason why I continue to fight, because I'm still fighting for those who are afraid to speak up. I'm still fighting for those who don't have the voice to speak up. We're talking about people with underlying health conditions that have been home for the last almost 3 months. So, this is what my fight is about. It was never about me. I put my career on the line for a reason, and I have no regrets about it.
It seems that Amazon is more focused really on protecting their image right now than their employees. It's clear that millions are being spent on their PR campaigns, but the warehouse workers, their needs their needs are still unmet. And it's not just New York; it's all over the world. There's campaigns all over the world against the working conditions of these warehouses.
Yeah.
Can you share with us exactly what is it that the warehouse workers today, what are you demanding?
The same thing we were demanding from the beginning. Every warehouse that had cases need to be closed down and sanitized for a minimum of 2 weeks. You don't stop the spread of the virus by continue to operate. You have to separate the people, and this is the reason why there's over 1,000 cases nationwide. This is the reason why people are continuing to die, and including people in my own former building that could have been prevented. They didn't do anything. They didn't do enough, and it's too late. They had to separate the people. So, like I said, they need to separate the people by closing down the buildings with cases for a minimum 14 days for that 14-day incubation period. Pay the people, retro pay the people that they haven't paid for the last 2 months. Make sure that the PPE is provided at all times in every single building, not just, my building. My building was a pilot, and they rolled it out to all the other buildings. But I'm still getting feedback that there isn't buildings taking the safety precautions serious. They need to enforce those, and they definitely need to reinstate everybody that they terminated over the course of this pandemic. It's not fair that people lost their jobs because of speaking out on health and safety concerns when they dropped the ball. It wasn't our fault. You're talking about people that's been there as long as 13 years. Emily Cunningham and Mara Costa. These are prominent people within their company, including myself, that have been there for almost 5 years. You think that we decide to wake up and be insubordinate? That's not true. We spoke up because something was missing, and it was a disconnect, and we were retaliated against because of that, and it's not right.
So there's a rather unsettling video that's going around right now of multiple news anchors from different stations, and they're saying the exact same thing. It's clearly a script, right? That was written from Amazon's PR department. We're going to try to play that video right now. Miguel, Miguel's our producer, by the way. Miguel, can you play that video so people can see what it is?
Millions of Americans staying at home are relying on Amazon.
Millions of Americans staying at home are relying on Amazon.
Millions of Americans staying at home are relying on Amazon.
Millions of Americans staying at home are relying on Amazon.
Amazon has transformed its operations in response to COVID-19 to protect employees and keep packages flowing.
Amazon has transformed its operations in response to COVID-19 to protect employees and keep packages flowing.
That's just a short clip, by the way. And this is recent. This was just a few days ago.
Yeah.
Chris, you know more about anyone than this. You're still connected to your former colleagues. Can you explain to us well, first, we want to get your reactions, but also, can you explain what the reality of the situation is outside of this public relations campaign that Amazon has launched?
It's just not true. It's insane to me because it's not the reality of the situation. People still, somebody just texted me this morning telling me they tested positive. It's crazy to me because, they said transform, which I'm surprised they even said that word in there because, that kind of opened up the window that they didn't do it from the beginning, even though they claimed they had. But everything started after me. Everything they've done, even in those videos and that script, is because of what I did on March 30th. Nothing that they did existed beforehand. And as a result of that, the culture in these buildings are still eerie. And even when you listen to that clip and you watch these propaganda videos, it's a very creepy, eerie situation because, they're spending money, like you said, they're spending billions of dollars on this PR, but won't even spend money on their own employees. And they're actually taking away money on June 1st. They're actually ending the $2 increase that they started with. So that just tells you where this company's mindset is profits over people. And they have no expense on, doing that. But it's an eerie situation. The people that work there for the company now, they're not happy. They're just not happy. And a lot of them support me from behind the scenes, and it's understandable. They have to continue to go to work. But this is the why I fight. This is why I continue to fight, and I will continue to fight because something has to change. It has to.
Chris, last question, and this is a personal one. So you took a risk at a time where New York, the epicenter of the pandemic in the US, where people were losing their jobs, they're getting sick, they're dying, to stand up for yourself and your coworkers to demand safer working conditions. If you could give advice to the Amazon worker, to a Walmart worker, or any of the frontline retail workers that are watching this but are too afraid to speak up, what would you tell them?
Well, I would tell them, COVID-19, this pandemic, this virus, it exposed a lot about this country and exposed not just about the country, but about these companies as well. And the time is now for us to make change. This is the time for workers, essential workers, frontliners all across the nation and all across the world. You've seen protests and strikes because the window of opportunity for change is now. And if we do not do anything about it, nothing will ever change. And we're talking about for our future generation. I have children that I want to raise in a society where they grow up and they go to work and they don't have to worry about the things that I have to worry about. And you even brought up George Floyd. We're in a society right now where a lot of things have been exposed. And there's multiple viruses going on. It's not just COVID-19, it's racism, it's capitalism. It's a lot of different isms that are going on that definitely need to be addressed during this window of opportunity. And for anybody, my advice is to speak up. Do not be afraid to speak up for the right thing, because at the end of the day, this is bigger than all of us. And this is for our future and our children. And this is the time to fight. The time is now.
Well said. Chris, thank you for joining us today. I really appreciate it. How can people get in touch with you and support what you're doing?
Absolutely. So on Twitter, shut_down Amazon. No surprise there. On Instagram, Chris.Smalls_. Also, be sure to support my GoFundMe page, which I am raising money for employees that haven't been paid. I already paid out over $20,000 to employees from JFK8 and beyond, and I'm continue to raise money for them. And also signed the petition brought to you by my own organization, TCOEW, the Congress of Essential Workers. We have a petition to keep that $2 hero pay permanently. We want to make sure that these workers are well compensated during these times and beyond.
Thank you, Chris. And we'll be sure to link to those, the petition, the GoFundMe, as well as Chris's social pages in the comments below. Thank you to the viewers. Thank you, Chris. Thank you to the viewers for joining us as well. If you enjoyed the show, let us know in the comments. These are tough times right now that we're facing. This is, one of those black swan events. It happens once in 100 years. And it's very challenging for all of us involved. The world needs love and positivity. Thanks for watching. Like and comment and share. Hit us up on social at Story of Stuff. Visit storyofstuff.org. Check out what else we're up to. That is the show for today. We will be back next week. My name is Jericho Appo. Thank you for joining The Shift.